Hello viewers, welcome to Mathathon. Today's video, we'll be looking at Pythagoras Theorem. Now before we get into that, we need to know what is a triangle. Now a triangle is any geometric shape consisting of 3 points or vertices which are connected by straight line segments called sides. So below we have a visual image of a triangle. We also need to know what is a right triangle. Now, this is a triangle which has an angle that is 90 degrees. The two shortest sides that make up the right angle are called legs. The longest side opposite the right angle is called the hypotenuse. So here we have a visual representation. So we have the legs shown, and we also have the longest side shown, which is the hypotenuse. Now, what is Pythagoras theorem? This states that in a right-angled triangle, the square of the hypotenuse side is equal to the sum of squares of the other two sides. So basically, A would be the perpendicular side, B would be the base, C would be the hypotenuse. And we'll find the Pythagoras theorem of right-angled triangles by adding the square of A plus the square of B, which will be equal to C squared, and that would give us Pythagoras theorem. Now, as I said before, A is the perpendicular, B is the base, C is the hypotenuse. So according to the definition, it is given as hypotenuse squared is equal to perpendicular squared plus base squared. Now let's try an example. So let's say we are given the perpendicular side to be 6, the base is 8, and we need to find x in this case, which is the hypotenuse. So we would have had our a square plus or b square, which would be equal to c squared. In this case, or a squared would have been 6, so I'm representing 6 as a, or b would have been 8 squared, and we are finding the hypotenuse, which is our c. Alright? Now, when I square 6, 6 multiplied by itself will give me 36, and 8 multiplied by itself will give me 64, and we are still on the hunt of finding our c. Alright? Now, when I add 36 plus 64, I would get 100, and it will still be equal to c squared. But the aim is to get only c and not c squared. So I would now find the square root of both sides to get rid of the c squared, to just have c by itself. So therefore, c would be equal to 10. So therefore, in this case, the hypotenuse is 10. Alright? I hope that was very clear. Now, let's look at this other example. If the sides of a triangle are A, B, and C, such that A is equal to 3 centimeters, B is equal to 4 centimeters, and C is the hypotenuse, find the value of C. So, the first thing you would need to do is sketch your triangle. So my A, which is the perpendicular side, would be 3 centimeters, B, which is the base, would be 4 centimeters, and C would represent the hypotenuse. Now, we are going to write our Pythagoras theorem, which says A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. And then we're going to replace the letters with the numbers given in our question. So A would represent 3 squared, B would represent 4 squared, and we would put back our c squared. Now I want for you to pause the video and complete this question for me. And then you're going to comment below your response before we start. Alright, now I hope you got this correct. Now let's solve. And I hope you also commented below your response. Alright, so when I multiply 3 by itself, I would get 9. When I multiply 4 by itself, I would get 16. And that would be equal to c squared. Now when I add 9 plus 16, I will get 25. And as we did before, we don't want c squared. At this point, we want c. So to get rid of the square, we're going to find the square root of both sides. Alright? And then the square root of 25 will be 5. So therefore, c is equal to 5. So we found the longest side, which is the hypotenuse, is equal to 5 centimeters. I hope you got that one correct. Alright, now we are finding the missing side other than the hypotenuse. So we're using the same formula, but in this case we have the hypotenuse. How are we going to find the base, which is the b? What do you think we need to do to find the other side than the hypotenuse? Very good. So we would use the formula, or we would change the subject of the formula. So because a is being added on this side, we're now going to subtract to get rid of it. So we would subtract a squared over here, and we'll do the same over this side. And this one will be gone, will be cancelled. So we now have b squared is equal to c squared minus a squared. Alright. Now I want for you to replace for me the b's, well not the b, the c and the a. What would our c be in this case? Very good. So our c would be 17, and we need to square it. Or a would be 15, and we also would need to square it. And we are still on the hunt to find our b. Now when I multiply 17 by itself, or I find the 17 squared, I would get 289. And when I multiply 15 by itself, I would get 225. Now, when I subtract 225 from 289, I would get 64. So we're still not yet through because we don't want b squared, we want b by itself. So we need to find the square root of both sides to get b by itself. Now, in this case, b would be equal to 8 centimeters. So remember, once we have the hypotenuse, we would subtract to get from the formula what we need to know. So therefore, b is 8. Alright. Now for the last one. We have a square, and it says, what is the diagonal distance across a square of size 4? So here would be the diagonal, right? Once they're asking for the diagonal, obviously they're asking for the hypotenuse. So once we have the other two legs, or we have our a and b, how do we find the hypotenuse? We would have a squared plus b squared, which would give us c squared. And c is what we intend to find. So we would have a, which is 4. So because it's a square, you know all sides are equal. So we'll have our a, which is 4, or b, which is also 4, and the aim is to get our c, which is our hypotenuse. Alright, so now when we multiply 4 by 4, we will get 16. Once again, we would also get 16. and our aim is to still find C. Alright, now when we add 16 plus 16, we will get 32, which would be equal to still C squared, but we want C by itself, so to get rid of it, we'd have to find the square root of both sides. And when I find the square root of 32, I end up with 5.66. I rounded it to 2 decimal places. So therefore, our C would represent 5.66. And remember, because it's the longest side, it would have to be longer than the 4 for both sides, or the 4 is for both sides. Alright, so remember, to find the Pythagoras theorem, we add a squared plus b squared, which would be equal to c squared. And if we already have the hypotenuse, we would transpose or change the subject of the formula to get what we don't know. Now, I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.